Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shaney Entertaining. This is my new Shaney Entertaining live stream of episode 4.
Hello, everybody. Welcome
Shut
to
your
Shaney
face, Shaney. Yep. This just keeps getting better and better, guys. We waited so long for this ending, and man, was that worth the wait. I'm just telling you. Every time I turn on the Game of Thrones, I get enthralled with all this great writing. And I don't know what to do with myself. I'll talk more about that when more people show up. Let's give it some time. I'm going to do some jibber jabber in the beginning because that's what I do best, to stall for time. Today I'm going to be talking about Game of Thrones, guys. I'm going to be talking about the Spider-Man new trailer that dropped, and my thoughts on it. Is the girl Avengers. I'm going to throw some of that in there because I have a few things I'd like to discuss on that matter, and that's probably going to be one that's going to be and probably controversial, probably not. We'll see how it all goes. See what you're all thinking about it. But yeah, so that's what I'm talking about on this live stream. So when more people show, we'll give it a few more minutes. I'm done with spider wares because I want to identify with my heroes. So how I identify with my heroes is I put on the shirts, and I feel like the Spider-Man is I'm all about the Spider-Man after that. But yeah. So I think I'm just going to have stalled long enough, and now I am going to start talking. And then I'll probably have to repeat myself at some point, which is always the case, but what can you do? This is what it comes down to when you're doing your live streams. So yes, what did I think of episode 4? I don't even care what the title is. People are like, "What's the title?" I don't care. At this point, the long night is still going on in my head. And it's just still too long for me. Well, not long enough, actually. What did I think of this episode? And I'll tell you what I think of this whole season so far. Well, that's the sort of blinkered Philistine pig ignorance I've come to expect from this non-creative garbage. I mean, it's getting done. It's just done, guys. I think they talk about jumping the shark, but jumping the shark means they had to go into, like, I've heard people say that Game of Thrones jumped the shark, which that harkens back to an old Happy Days episode when they ran out of ideas and they just had they had the Fonz I think jump over a shark in a water tank with the motorcycle, and that idea was just so stupid. It was just like the show was already done for, and so they were just decided that's how they were that they needed to come up with something, and they come up with all they could come up with was the Fonz jumping over a shark with his motorcycle. And but at least that was a spectacle. At least that was something. I don't even think this is jumping the shark. This is just ignoring the shark. This is just let's not even care anymore. This is just we still have a few episodes left, really. Can we stretch it out? Can we do more stretching out? Can we do some honestly, they could have just done 2 episodes, 2 really long episodes. They didn't really need 6 episodes for this whole season because most of it is filler anyway. I mean, the whole beginning of this episode, I'm going to say what I mean. So the beginning of this episode, guys, starts out pretty strong, actually, with the speech given by Jon Snow about the fallen people who died, the people who died. It was a really powerful speech. I give credit for where credit is due on that one. And he delivered the speech really well. Proving that he's probably king worthy, which is spoilers for future considerations, possibly. Who knows? But yeah, so Jon Snow does that little speech, and then they have their little revelry party because they conquered the Night King, and so they have this little festival and this little party, and in this party, this is where everything kind of goes downhill. Because this is where the Game of Thrones, this really powerful show with really good writing, dark at time, mostly dark, turns into the Friends episode. So no one told you the Night King was gonna go this easy. Snow's a joke. He's a dork. Arya got the day. I don't know. It was just such a. it was just like, what, love? Like they're talking about love and relationships, and it's just like this whole. It's like the impending war with. Is just like with Cersei is just like, who cares? Let's talk silliness and. It was just so bad. Like, oh my god, he broke my heart. Brienne. Brienne is now sought after, the most sought after, apparently the most sought after woman in all of what do you call it? In all the kingdom, and so all the guys are after her. So they have to fight over her because she's the, it got really silly. At that point, and then you have jealousy. She was, what do you call it? Daenerys gets jealous of Jon Snow, sees how everybody looks at him, and she runs in a huff, but not before she leaves. She takes a sip of her Starbucks coffee, because that's another thing that happened in that movie. Spoiler alert, guys, because I know everybody wants to see that Starbucks scene. So apparently there's a Starbucks coffee left on the table. The film editors decided, why not? We just don't care. Just leave it there. So for people want to know who's going to sit on the throne at the end, I still say it's probably going to be Starbucks is going to take over all of Westeros. You're going to see Starbucks opening up all over the place. That was foreshadowing. That wasn't a mistake, guys, is what I'm trying to say. It wasn't a mistake. It was foreshadowing for the future. Starbucks is going to take over. So mark my words here. Starbucks is. Everyone thinks it was just a mistake, continuity error. Not continuity error. No, these guys are genius writers. They don't make those kind of mistakes. No, these teams of editors working on this thing. That is not a mistake. That was left on purpose. They knew Starbucks was going to take over, and I think we're going to change the name of Arya, because she's going to be the queen, and she's going to be Arya Grande. Get it? Stupid joke, I know. Arya Grande, guys. That's going to be the new queen, because she's going to open up a Starbucks with Jon Snow, who doesn't want to be the king, which is the thing that happens in this movie, because so Daenerys runs into a huff in her room, and Jon Snow chases after Snow. Snow's also pouting in the room, and they have this discussion about, the elephant in the room for those two, which is, you're my you're my aunt and we had sex. No, that's not what they talked about. That's actually not anything they really care about, that part. All they really cared about was him having the claim to the throne, and she doesn't like that. And he says, I don't want to be king. Yeah, Arya Grande. That is who she is. She drinks her... Yes, that's right, Nancy. Arya Grande. That's the new coffee of Westeros. So anyway, so they have this discussion where he says, don't tell anybody. And of course, he's going to tell people, because Jon Snow can't hold secrets. It's just like, what? I want you to be queen, he tells her. And then, this is what I love about it. Why? Why would he? Is he the dumbest human? This is why I don't like Jon Snow. And I know everyone's like, what? Jon Snow's so awesome. I freaking hate Jon Snow. He's boring. I don't even understand what girls see in him. I think what girls see in him is the fact that there is no other guy ever. Wester Dark Roast, Nancy Henrique says. Yeah, that's right. Wester Dark Roast. Arya, Jon Snow is to me a very bland, boring character. He just, everyone likes him, and I don't understand why. He's fought battles. He's a good warrior, but he's very mopey. I don't see him with any charm at all. He's always so focused on his tasks. He's like almost like a machine, and I don't understand what anybody sees in him, to be honest with you. I find him just and I think that it's only because there's actually no female. There's no hot guys other than him. Because you notice all the guys that are left over now are just these weird scarred guys, or old guys, or small or short guys. There's just no actual really hot looking guys anymore. He's the last one, so by default he's the one all the girls want, and they can't kill him off because they have no one left. I mean, Jaime Lannister was the last decent looking dude, and he's got no hands and no scruples, so screw that guy. So I think that's why he's popular, because otherwise I don't see it. I don't see the reason for the love for Jon Snow. He really doesn't appeal to me as far as the character is concerned. Guy Harrison, applause. I mean, I just like, to me, Sansa and him are like the same. I think they're just boring, bland, one note, monotoned characters, and they're very obnoxious. And I don't know why he's like, I still wanted to see him kill the damn Night King, because at least that would have given him something to his character, like something, but they didn't even give that to him. So anyway, that aside, because now he doesn't want to be king. And so he doesn't want to be king so bad that he bends the knee to her and says, I love you and I want you to be king. So the person who he is supposed to respect and love and wants to follow gives him a direct order, and that is to keep it like, you are my queen, he says. And usually when you say you are my queen and you give fealty to someone, you kind of do what they tell you, right? Well, when she says, don't tell anybody about your claim to the throne, and he says, I can't do that. I'll have to tell my family. Why? You don't have to tell shit. You don't have to. You're just choosing to. Why do you have to tell them anything? It's going to complicate your life, her life, and if you love her so much, you keep that shit to yourself. But he's just so stupid and bland in one note that of course he's going to, because he's a robot. I can't not do it because I can't keep in secrets. I'm a gossip. So he's apparently a vicious gossip and can't keep it to himself. And that's like, that was just the start of just like, I'm shaking my head going, just shut up, Snow, please. John Scottish? I don't know. He's not. I don't know. Is he Scottish? I think he might actually, the actor might actually be Scottish. I got to do a Jon Snow impression. I got to learn it, because the next time I'm going to get him good. But yeah, no. I just think everybody sounds better in Westeros with a Scottish accent or Irish accent. They just all have to have a Scottish accent. Why not? It just sounds better. But yeah, he's so, I'm just like, whatever. I'm just moving along, and now I'm just going, I can't understand why you wouldn't. And then she gives him that face like, I love you. And then her face just turns like daggers right after. North England accent. All right. Well, I gotta have to learn the North England accent so that I can do him better. You're right. Brian Young. Well, welcome to my live chat, by the way. I got to demand better of myself. Gee, I actually should demand better myself here. Just doing this horrible Scottish accent. Anyway, so that was just horrible. Because I don't understand. Nothing makes sense to me. Give him a reason as to why he has to tell. I don't like, anyway, I'm moving on. Then you get them flying, the scene with them flying the dragon. Oh, let's not even, we're not done the party yet, because Brianna Ken, she's the most eligible bachelorette in that party. And everyone's just itching for some Brienne loving, because I don't know. I don't really see it. She's big and tough, and guys just respect that. And and it's the most awkward stuff, because I'm sorry, I just don't see them together. I can understand a mutual respect, and I kind of thought they had more of a brother-sister relationship or something like that. But Jamie and her relationship, or having, it's just so tacky. It just doesn't seem natural. It seemed tacked on. I just don't see him being into it. I don't like her. I just like, I don't know. I just didn't feel it. It felt kind of gross to me. I don't know why. It just did. I wanted to see what's his face go with her, because I thought they would at least two guys, Tormund. I wanted to see him, because that would have been hilarious and just fun, just to see him climb the mountain. I thought it would have been awesome, but no, they give it to Jamie, which is just, I don't know. You wouldn't have expected it, guys. Subverted expectations. That's why. Which I don't think it does. It's just sort of lame. Because did they even foreshadow any of that? I know that they kind of made it seem as though he respected her and he looked up to her, but there was no like anything romantic in from what I could tell set up there. So it just seems so tacky and like last minute. Yeah, poor Tormund. It's true. I feel so bad for him. He's like, and that's another thing. Like he's crying about it. Like, oh, it broke my heart. Yes, he's Scottish too. Everybody's Scottish. I don't care. Everybody's gonna be Scottish. Today, everyone's Scottish. He broke my heart, and I'm just crying. I'm just like, why are you like, what? And then, of course, a girl, like a hooker says, "You want me?" and whatever. And then, like, I'm sorry. So he goes. He's fine afterwards. That eased his broken heart. Just like, wow, this has become like a teen soap opera. What was once a nice, mature, show is become Friends, and it's just horrible. So now you have Targaryen. She's flying around in her dragon, frolicking in the air. Daenerys is frolicking with her dragons and just really high up in the air. Heaven forbid she actually takes the world seriously for 5 minutes, because she is actually trying to get people into a war. Remember, everyone's like, we need a rest, because you see these wounds that they have, they're kind of violent and they're kind of harsh, and you don't want the guy's arm to fall off during battle with Cersei, so let's take some time and relax. And she's like, no, we gotta go for the gusto here. Because the longer we wait, the longer she's gonna prepare for us. And so she wants to go in right now when everybody's broken and battered and beaten. Really good strategy on her part. But instead of like getting prepared and getting her game face on, she frolics around in the air with the dragons. And really not paying much attention, because all I could picture her is just flying around going, wee, because she doesn't see, the hordes of ships just waiting for her, shooting her dragon down. And I'm just like, wow, you're just like, you shouldn't be allowed on a dragon. She just Targaryen, like the last episode where she lands, where she saves Jon Snow with the Axe Machina, breathe a breath of fire, then lands her dragon and waits for a horde of White Walkers to overrun her, toss her out before she actually does anything, because she tends to always forget that her dragons could breathe fire and fly. But heaven forbid she says fly, or breathe fire, something that your dragons are supposed to be about. She just doesn't, because writers don't want to write it. It's just, we need the scene of her falling off, because that's more important than the dragons, because they built these dragons to be extremely formidable and powerful and a threat to Cersei. But I don't see it, because I don't see these dragons as a threat. These dragons are a non-threat. They're just jokes, to be perfectly honest. She doesn't even care anymore. You notice how she used to cry about her dragons when they were hungry. They were my children. These are my children. And now they die, and she just fluffs it off like it ain't nothing. She just like Skywalkers it and walks away. I don't get it. Do you care? I thought they were your children. But no, she's all into Jon Snow. She doesn't care anymore about the dragons, apparently. So anyway, they attack the Greyjoy fleet, or attack the attack with the dragons with their and one of the dragons and kill him. He flies right. I think he's dead. I don't know. You can't really tell if he's dead. He may Axe Machina come back to life. We didn't really see him die, but we definitely know he fell into the. I think we assume he's dead. Falls into the ocean, and what does she do? This brilliant tactician of a leader. Well, she decides, I'm going to go head on to this fleet, which has all their weapons at the front of the ships. Let's not flank them from the side or from the back. Let's just go right for these damn things, because she's an idiot. And more I keep thinking that, well, I used to root for her like crazy. Now I just can't stand her. She's beyond stupid now. Like, you're just too dumb to rule. Not even that you're just dumb. You can't rule nothing. You can't even make a simple decision. Like, she didn't even get one fireball off. Like, she didn't even take down one ship. If your one dragon can't take down that fleet, then what good is that dragon against Cersei? Like, I'm just thinking about this. She's flying around. She doesn't see them, even though she's got the height to where she should be able to see them coming. She doesn't see them. And then when they take down one of her dragons, she gets so angry that she heads straight for them in a brilliant maneuver instead of flanking them or going around them. She's only been around war, I don't know, and war heroes, people talking about strategies, people. She's only been around that for, I don't know, years and years and years, and none of that has rubbed off on her. She hasn't thought of anything as far as strategy. She doesn't, It's so bad. It's just so bad, man. And so he doesn't flank around. She doesn't flank around. She could have taken one ship, but she doesn't. So what did they do? And then the Dothraki fleet, or sorry, not Dothraki, her fleet of ships are just sitting there doing nothing and taking shots. They don't know what to do. They look impotent in the water, and so they get taken down. And everybody on those fleets seem to be safe and sound on the shore of this deserted island, except for what's her face? I always forget her name. Hold on, I'm going to look for it right here. Missandei. Why should I have remembered Missandei? They took Missandei hostage. Why her of all people? Because of story reasons. That's the only reason. Because we need to kill somebody, and it's got to be impactful to someone. So she gets taken prisoner. Why only her? Why didn't the whole? Why of them? If they were able to take her, they must have been able to take all of them. Not just. It's just so random. And they don't even show how it's done. And that's another thing about how lazy the writing is. It's so lazy that they never show how anything is done. And I just keep saying, why bother with the bloody war? Because if you're not going to show anything, if you're just going to say, it's like that whole war with the White Walkers. It was just, we seeing swarms of White Walkers swarming, Jamie, or swarming Brienne, or swarming, and then in the end, or Jon Snow. Then they never see how they get out. They just cut to the next scene and they come back. They're all right. What's the point in even a war? Let's just say, let's have them all face off, cut to the next scene, and whoever's supposed to be on the throne is on the throne. Let's just cut to the middleman, because we don't, none of that stuff seems to matter anyway. All that middle stuff is all nonsense. It's like they yada, yada, yada this entire show. Yada, yada. If you guys watch Seinfeld, you know what I'm talking about. They completely yada, yada the show. It's like yada, yada, yada. She gets kidnapped. Yada, yada, yada. Jon Snow survives. Yada, yada, yada. Arya flies like Superman down onto the Night King. Yada, yada, yada. It's just, everything is yada, yada, yada in this show. And it's just like, just yada, yada to the end. Could we just yada? Because why bother? Just yada, yada the end. So then we have Brian Young says, disappointed that they didn't show Bran telling Sansa and Arya about Jon's true parentage. It's all too rushed. Yeah, not even. They don't even show that. They don't even show that moment. That little moment. Yeah, they yada, yada, yada even that moment. It was just like, screw it. We don't need to know anything. Let's just... An hour long, and they talk about nonsense. They talk about relationships of people we don't even care about that don't go anywhere. But they don't talk about important things. They don't talk about the things we want to see. And then they have this moment with Tyrion and what's his face talking about who should be the crown, who should be in the crown, right? And again, another stupid moment, because it's like Tyrion says something genius like, why can't they both share the throne? And then they say, well, because that would make too much sense. We have to come up with some stupid reason as to why they can't. So he says something like, oh, because she'll never allow it. She wants to rule herself. And even if she did, she would overpower Jon. What? What the hell is that supposed to mean? It's just so stupid. She'll overpower Jon. Of course she's going to overpower Jon. Jon doesn't even want to be there. He wants to open up. He wants to be a barista and open up a Starbucks. Guy Harrison says, how about the left? His dog, his dire wolf was nothing. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like there is no more emotion or passion. It's like Daenerys doesn't cry for her dragons. He just lets go of his wolf because they were tired of making a CGI wolf or something. They just go with him. You're better there. Like, I know he's Scottish again. Sorry. I just can't get that out. I got to stop with that, but it's ingrained in me now. Can't. I'm just so, it's just, everything in this is just so rushed and just like they just want to they just want to go home. I don't know, collect their paychecks. I don't know, just horrible. And so I really just want to see Jon Snow just open up a Starbucks down like where the white, just forget everything, because that would be the nice twist. No one would see it coming. He just quits and says, I don't want to be the king, and he just leaves down to goes down to where the wild ones are, and then just opens up a Starbucks there and becomes a barista. And that's his story arc. Might as well. But anyway, so then we have this because they kidnapped and took Missandre. We have to have this parlay with Cersei now. This sudden parlay that just happens. And again she sits. It's a ridiculous scene of just her, not even her whole, like a few of her army standing there in front of Cersei with the high ground, and all of her archers just pointing down at them, plus those giant shots that took down a dragon, those giant arrows, and they're just sitting there like sitting ducks, acting like they have the power. Like Tyrion is has the nerve to go up to her and say, Cersei, you have to give up. Like, you should give up. Like, what? You have one dragon left. 2 of them were killed, and not very hard to kill, to be honest with you. They have done nothing up to this point of any value or relevancy. And yet you still stand there telling her, who has the high ground, who could probably at this point wipe you out before the war starts, talking smack like you have actual ground to stand on in this war. Like, you don't want everyone to die. And she goes, yeah, you're right. And she just asks her army, or commands her army to take them all down right off the bat. And there would be no war. And it's hilariously stupid. That whole scene was just horrible. And then they behead her, and then she falls down. It's just like, oh, like, oh my God, you took that. That whole didn't even matter, because it's like, I still don't understand how you got her. It just doesn't even make sense to me. Yeah, they were sitting ducks. They were definitely sitting ducks. I mean, everything we know about Cersei, she would have just taken them down. She wouldn't have even, she would have just taken down all of them right there. She wouldn't have even waited. Would not even be a hesitation. She would have just done, they're all gone. And that's it. The war is over. What's the point? What's the point of going, you're right. We shouldn't kill you. We shouldn't go through this war. It's irrelevant. I'll just slaughter you all right here. And everyone will survive in Westeros. It's just so dumb. And it just makes you, cringe in your heart about the show that it used to be. And now what it is, what it's turned into. People waited years for this show. And this is what you're getting in return. Some half-assed slack-jawed writing. Some really horrible moments of just awkward cringe, like love scene, like scenes of like Arya. Anytime Arya kisses, I know it's just, maybe it's me, but it's so cringy. Like she makes out, and it's like I know it's maybe because she looks like a 10-year-old girl. It's just bad. It just feels bad. And then at least if they get a guy who's like looks sort of her age, then it might be fine. But it just looks so off-putting when you see it actually happen. So anyway. Yeah, that's my review of this whole show. In the end, I just like, do I look forward to this war? No, because I mean, I'm gonna watch it just because we've invested this much time. But what do I foresee happen now, going forward? Anything could happen at this point. I really don't even. It's so stupid that anything can happen, because in the yada yada yada, the fact that they're yada yada yadaing important sequences means that literally everything and anything can happen. They fight. It looks like people are going to die. They survive. Yada, yada, yada. At the end, Cersei gets killed by Jaime Lannister. Yada, yada, yada. Everything, they fight. Yada, yada, yada. Some things happened. Some people look like they're going to die. And all of a sudden, Tyrion kills her. Like, who the hell knows? Who the hell cares? Because at this point, they're not going to set up anything. They're not going to write it properly. It's just, you could even have, the way I believe it's going to be done, they could legitimately have 17 different people kill her. And then it wouldn't make a difference, because they're going to yada, yada, yada it. It's just going to be cut to this scene, and then it's just going to be this scene right here. There's not going to even be a bridge to it. It's not going to make any sense. There's not going to be, that's why it's not going to be empowering. It's not going to feel like, it's not going to feel good when it happens, because it's just going to be so random and out of left field. And because they don't have to write it. If you're yada yadaing half the show, you don't need to bloody write anything that's meaningful and impactful. Who should get the kill? Me, I think I could think of a few people that should get the kill, and it would be sort of an emotional, it would be impactful for the story. Jaime killing Cersei would be emotionally impactful for his story arc. I think Arya, although Arya Speedwagon, I don't think she should anymore, because she's already killed the Night King. So What is she going to kill everybody now? So she just, she's going to be Ray. So I'm sorry, but like we don't need her. I like her character, and I'm tired of them torturing her. Like let she did her thing. Now let's let someone else do something else. Who else could do it? Tyrion, I think, has a serious claim to her as well. Who else? Jon Snow, but I don't even think he has a claim to her. They don't really care. I mean, anybody who is a Stark has a claim to her, I guess, because of what she's done, and But at this point, I think the best one for the story would be Jaime, just because Jaime is the one who I think he's been emotionally sort of abused by her, and that's kind of what they were hinting at. I think of an abusive relationship that he's just at some point in his life he has to make a decision whether who she's just so evil she's has him wrapped around her finger, and I think that would be the only thing that would sort of be impactful. Although that would make no sense for his story too, because apparently she's pregnant with his kid. I know she lied and said it's the other guy, but I'm pretty sure it's his kid too. So now he'd be killing his own kid. So I don't know. They painted this whole thing into a corner, and I just don't care. Maybe it's suicide. Maybe she just can't take it anymore. She overdoses on Starbucks coffee and kills herself. Or she becomes the queen, indefinite, and wins. That would really be a twist to the situation, that she actually wins. No one ever considers that she may actually win, and what she actually should win if you really consider the army at this point. Anyway, that's the end of that thing. I'm going to give. Was this thing equal, or this was obviously this one wasn't as bad as the other episode, just because of the letdown with the buildup of the episode, and the letdown was too big. This one was just more of the same of what we're getting, and I just think we're going to keep getting let down each time, each episode. So I'm just going to go in the next episode with my shield up and my sword, brandishing my sword, so I don't get too affected by it, because I know now that not to expect anything from this show anymore. Now let's go to the new Spider-Man trailer, guys, because I wanted to talk briefly about that. And the reason why I wanted to talk about that has to do with the fact that what I said before. I watched it. Everyone's talking about it, and a lot of people are saying Spider-Man going to be the new face of Marvel. I mean, Marvel really made a big thing about Captain Marvel being the face, and when you watch this trailer, it seems like Nick Fury is trying to groom Spider-Man to be the new Iron Man, which is the whole theme of the trailer. I'm going to be Iron Man. And he's doing the Jon Snow. I don't want to be Iron Man. Like, I don't know. Because that's Spider-Man's character. He always backs down from adversity. Don't you know in the comics, he doesn't think of the things he said to Uncle Ben. That's okay. So I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, because I'm going to get into this. I'm not a fan of this Spider-Man. I've made no apologies about it. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. It is my favorite character. And I do not like the MCU version or take on the character of Spider-Man. That's not Tom Holland's fault. Tom Holland does a great job. I like Tom Holland. But the character and the way he's being written and the character development of Spider-Man, I cannot stand. In fact, I absolutely loathe. He's a superhero of his own right. He doesn't need anybody else's guidance. He usually doesn't have anybody else's guidance. And the only guidance he actually tends to get comes from the ghost or the thought of his Uncle Ben, who told him with great power comes great responsibility, which they just completely overlook in the MCU, because his uncle, who is the only reason that guilt that Spider-Man carries for not acting heroically when he had the chance that led to his death, was the one true defining moment in his character, which got him to always make the right decision, even if it impacted his social life, even if it impacted his job or his school. He made the choice that he had to, because of the guilt that he carried around with him from letting his uncle die. They completely overlooked this, and this is a huge part of Spider-Man. And to give it to Tony Stark. Tony Stark is now the father figure who tells him, in snarky ways to be a hero, and he's constantly like a little puppy to Iron Man, and now to his henchman. I forget his name. Anyway, it's just I can't see this character act this way anymore. Spider-Man he's not even credited with his own costume. He doesn't make his own costume. Tony Stark makes him his costume. He's a genius. You know how many people out there in Instagram do cosplay that's just fantastic? And you're telling me that this genius Spider-Man who makes webs can't come up with his own damn stinking costume? It's just like, come on, it's insane. I'm not saying it had to be technologically advanced the way it is, but he doesn't need a technologically advanced suit. And then you see in this trailer, he's using that iron suit, which, again, I'm just not a big fan of because it's taking away from Spider-Man's power. And it was okay in the comics because it was part of a whole, when they actually introduced the iron suit, it was Spider-Man and Iron Man had joined forces, and he gave him the suit. And then guess what? Spider-Man gave it back to Iron Man because, you know, he didn't believe in what Tony Stark was doing and went against Tony Stark at that point in the comics. And so he gave back the suit. And he just became Spider-Man again with his own powers. Funny. And he liked it better that way. And this way, I just see everything is just paying homage to the MCU and giving them all the credit for Spider-Man. He's done nothing of his own merits. Now you see this one where his whole thing is, this whole trailer is him going on vacation. He wants to go on a vacation. And he wants to spend time with MJ, who I'm sorry, I don't like her as MJ. Not because I just don't like the snark. There's just too much snark in her face. Everything she does is snarky. Why does she have to talk to him like can't people act normal anymore? Why is everything going to be with this attitude all the time? He's like such a fidgety kid. He's like, and she's like, I know you're, and then they reveal that in the damn trailer. I know you're Spider-Man. It's kind of obvious. What is going on with you? Can't you talk like a person? Why does nobody talk like a human anymore? Why does everyone have to talk with snark and sass? Like even to the guy you like, you can't even be sincere with him. And I can't even get them together. It doesn't even make sense to me. I could see him liking her because he likes everybody like a puppy dog. But her, it's almost like he's an annoyance. She treats him like he's an annoyance in the trailer, and she treated him like an annoyance in the other movie. So I don't know how, like, MJ, if that's who she's supposed to be, she had like other guys she liked, but she always liked Peter Parker. This almost seems like she's annoyed by Peter Parker, like he's just a brat he has to put up with. And that's just the way he acts in general, because this version of Peter Parker acts like a brat. The way he talks to the cops is ridiculous. What he said to the cops was, what? I have to do your job? Really? That's not a joke. That's an insult. Why would you say that to cops? That's not Spider-Man. He doesn't snark at the cops with that sass, that stupid sass. That's not even funny. Like, I'm doing your job now. Like that's something Brie Larson would say. It's not something Spider-Man would say, and I'm sorry, it isn't. And now that's what the writing is. It's just snark. Everything is snarky. It used to be jokey and quippy. There's a difference between quippiness and snarkiness, and they don't know the difference. They're writing Spider-Man with snark and not just Spider-Man, all the characters with snark. Now you have, what's his name in the trailer? Will you answer the call? Like, I can't even take him seriously anymore after I found out what happened to his eye. So him acting like a badass now, it's like, no, sorry, can't do it. You want to act like a badass now after you act like a wuss in Captain Marvel? Sorry, can't do it. They tortured your character now. Now when he's acting, he doesn't command respect when I see him anymore. So they screwed the pooch on that one. But then you have, so he says, will accept the charge, will accept the call to be, and then instead of accepting the charge and accepting the call, he says, what about this hero? What about this one? What about that one? Because, with great power comes responsibility. Doesn't matter anymore to him because he doesn't think of Uncle Ben and the responsibility, which is, and at this stage in his development, that really was torturing him. But it doesn't in this because Tony Stark, the only thing, and that's another thing, he loses his uncle. And that was a huge loss for him, a huge loss. He loses Tony Stark, and he seems to not be able to get over it. I don't like this version of Spider-Man. I'm going to go see this. I don't know if I'm going to even go see this movie. It all depends on, the rest of the action sequences, because I'm not even seeing any really good action in this. I think the villain doesn't lend to good action because they got the Mysterio character who is just fantasy and stuff, and I just don't see Spider-Man I never think that those are good action sequences. You can't really build decent action sequences, in my opinion, with that kind of a villain. So I don't even think you're going to get good action. It's all going to be him swinging around, saving people, but I don't see any really cool action out of that. I could be wrong though, but I rarely am. Maybe, I don't know. I'm always wrong, but not really. I think that it's going to be a mediocre movie, and this whole thing of going into the multiverse. What? There's a multiverse? I'm a genius. Like he's just so like, is he a genius? What is he? What is Spider-Man? He's a guy who uses a suit that someone else made for him. He doesn't even use his own powers anymore. He doesn't use his instincts, which is his. I don't like him. Sorry guys, I hope I like this. I hope this movie changes my mind because I love Spider-Man. He's my favorite hero, my favorite character. But at this point, this version of Spider-Man is just not doing it for me. I didn't even like him in Endgame. I thought in Endgame he was like, I almost wanted him to shut up. Kept embarrassing himself. Kept swinging around. He was like Jar Jar Binks out there. Kept falling around on things, like one folly after the next, introducing himself in the middle of battle to people. Hi, I'm Spider-Man. Like, dude, act like Spider-Man. Stop acting like Spider Brat. Because you're acting like Spider Brat, not Spider-Man. And him, hi, I'm Spider-Man. Hi, I'm Spider-Man. Like, dude, we're in a fight here. Take it easy. And quip. That's not quippy. That's being obnoxious. He was funny. He would taunt what he would do. Spider-Man would taunt his villains. He would taunt them into making mistakes. That's what he would do. He wouldn't sit there, mesmerized and in awe of everything. He used to actually strategically taunt them to draw them to make mistakes and use that tactic to get to weaken them. That's what he would do. He knew he would always use his ingenuity because most of the time, Spider-Man always fought villains more powerful than he was. Even though he had powers, he always fought stronger villains. So he always had to use his ingenuity, his intelligence to defeat them most of the time. And so usually when he uses his mouth was used to taunt them to make mistakes, and he exploited their mistakes. That's what he used. And he doesn't sit around in awe of everybody all the time, making stupid, lame jokes that don't even hit or mark. Like, oh, look at this arm. What is this? I mean, that was cute at the time, but that was probably one of his only good ones. But most of the thing, he's just literally just in awe of everything all the time. Taunt. He makes mistakes by getting them angry. That's how he wins against these foes. It's not necessarily his strength. He doesn't use, that's how he does it. And so that's why this trailer, I'm just sort of meh on. The Spider-Man, I'm meh on in general. So that's what I think about this. Last but not least on my list, guys, I am going to talk about this all-girls Avengers scenario. I don't know if it's going to take place. Wouldn't surprise me if it did. This whole thing where Brie Larson wants to direct an all-girl Avengers. This is the kind of thing that I really wanted to talk about most of all, because when I heard this really annoyed me. This whole notion of these people now, I'm not even going to call them SJWs anymore, because I'm actually, this is a rant, guys. So just, beware, rant alert coming your way. I don't want to call these people SJWs anymore. I don't even want to call them feminists anymore, because to do that gives them too much credit. If you're an SJW or you're someone who's a social justice warrior, means you care about justice. It means you don't care about, you're not picking a side. You just want freedom and parity for everybody. You want fair life. You want fair 50-50. You want it to be fair, right? You're looking for freedoms of people who have no freedom. That's when I think of an SJW. That's what you're fighting for, right? But if you're a feminist, you're looking for what? Pro female. You want to help women, become empowered and help empower women, blah blah blah. That's what I think of when I hear those two. Not that that's what's going on. Obviously, that's not what's really going on. What's going on is sexism, and I'm calling this out right now. I'm tired of it. I'm sick and tired. This is an absolute rant, and I'm sick and tired of this narrative being portrayed that these people are pro-female, or this all girl Avengers, if it happens, is sexist. Okay, I'm calling it what it is. It's sexism. I'm tired of saying, oh, it's good for girls to have, and let's. And I've heard arguments about people talking about, oh, well, we need representation. First of all, because we need to associate with these people, we need to relate to them. And if I don't see, and I've heard this argument from so-called feminists or SJWs, we don't have anyone to look up to, or we don't have anyone to relate to because they're not like us. And I'm like, do I really relate to Spider-Man or Superman? Do I relate to them just because my color is white and he's white? Or he's a man and I'm a man? No, I don't relate to Superman at all. No one could relate to Superman. You know why we can't relate to Superman? We could look up to Superman. We could look up to his values, but I'm never going to associate with Superman because Superman is Superman. He flies. He's got a cape. He's got his underwear on the outside of his pants. I can't relate to that. Under no circumstance am I wearing my underwear on the outside of my pants. This is not happening. I'm not wearing tights either because I don't look good in tights. Although I do have a nice butt. I will say that. But I'm not relating to him. You can't relate to Superman. He's unrelatable to the average human being. You can't relate to Batman. I'm not a millionaire. He's human and I'm human. That's the only relation we have. Is that he's a man who's white and he's a millionaire. But I can't relate to the millionaire because I don't have his wealth. I don't have his power. I don't have his intelligence. I don't have his skill. I can't relate to him. We don't relate to these characters. So stop saying we have to relate to them. There is no relating to characters. They don't represent us. They don't. They're not us. They're our betters because we look up to them. They're supposed to guide us with their morals. They're supposed to make proper decisions based on their morals, and we're supposed to look up to them. We're not supposed to actually, and it doesn't matter what color you are. You can look up to anybody. I looked up to my mom, not because, growing up, because she was worth she was my mom. I looked up to her. I didn't have to look up to her. I didn't say, oh, I look up to my dad because my dad is a man. And my mom, I didn't look up to her because she's a woman. It didn't make sense. You look up to people because they deserve your praise. They deserve it. It's worthy. Now, when you just say, oh, we're going to have representation because, we have to feel like no, we don't relate to these characters at all. I don't relate to them. You can't relate. How is any girl relating to Captain Marvel? How can you relate to Captain Marvel? You can't relate to her because she's this omniforce presence. She doesn't even live on Earth, for heaven's sake. She doesn't even spend 2 days on Earth. How are you relating to Captain Marvel when she doesn't even live on the damn planet? I'm talking about the character. I'm not talking about the actress. I'm talking about the character. She barely even lives. She doesn't even she comes in when she feels like it. She doesn't live on Earth. She's a Kree. Just because she has boobs, you have to relate to her? No, you can't relate to someone just because of your gender. Or there's nothing relatable about the character at all. Okay, there is no hero that is relatable. None. Maybe Hawkeye back in the day, but not even him. Okay, you can't relate to any of them. Hey, GC Ant Edit said, I dislike Captain Marvel because she is a woman. You're going straight for the port. Cameron and his camera says, hey, I have watched Endgame. Have you watched Endgame? Yes, I have watched Endgame. Of course I've watched Endgame. I have a review on Endgame, by the way, if you want to see it. I dislike Captain Marvel because she is a woman. I dislike Captain Marvel because her character's shit. That's why I dislike her. Black Widow, to me, is not relatable. She's a woman, and how do you relate to her? She's got red on her ledger. She was a spy, a Russian spy. Well, all little girls are going to relate to that. All little girls are going to say, "Who do you want to be?" Oh, I want to be a Russian spy. That's not who's turned into a hero now. Who probably murdered a bunch of people. Let's relate to her. SK Wills, how's it going, bud? I love Captain Marvel. She's my favorite Marvel character. So Hollywood would be proud of me. Well, right, I say like her because I wanna bang her. You're showing your male toxicity there, SK Wills. Watch your privilege. I think Spider-Man's pretty relatable because it covers a lot of the struggles teenagers would go through during school. I will agree with you. That's one of the reasons I actually like Spider-Man. He is the most, if there is a hero that is relatable as far as his personality and his struggles and what he goes through, Spider-Man is the one that really is the most relatable. That's why I've always liked Spider-Man, and that's what Spider-Man, that's what his appeal is that his story arc, his story is relatable. Although he himself, his powers, that still only gets to a certain point, because then how do you still relate to a kid who, you can relate to him on a personal level because of his struggles, but you can't relate to him on an actual level because he's still a guy who climbs up buildings with his webs and shoots webs, and is, you know, they're just strong to lift up a car. It's still hard to do that. But I mean, I know what you mean though. Like, for sure, Spider-Man is the one really. I mean, there is relatable things about all these characters. There is some, because if there wasn't, we wouldn't like them so much. There is a shard of relatability to them. Otherwise, we couldn't really follow them too well. But it's still just sort of paper thin, and it's just enough. We were supposed to really look up to these people. And so that's this whole thing when we talk about we need representation. They don't represent you. They represent the gods. They represent the elites. They represent a force that we're supposed to look up to, but they don't relate to me as a human being going through my daily routine. He says, J. Kent Edit says that his points aren't necessarily super, though, unlike Captain Marvel, who can just win fights because she's strong. Captain Marvel is, I think, going to ruin this. I've said this before. She's ruining this thing, this whole universe. She's a character that is worse than Superman in the fact that, and I love Superman, by the way. So I'm not shitting on Superman. He's my number 2. But Superman, though, has an issue because of his power level is so high that it's really hard to find a villain or someone. So you always have to sort of come up with this kryptonite reason for why you got to beat him. That always tends to weaken the story because kryptonite is always this ex machina beating of him or weakening him. And I'm not a big fan of kryptonite. I always wish that they had done this in the comics where they made him inject himself with just trace amounts of kryptonite so that kryptonite no longer, just enough so that his immune system kind of, gets strong enough that kryptonite no longer affects him anymore. And so now anyone pulls out kryptonite on him, he just says this, and then does whatever he wants. Or then, maybe wears a radiation suit. I don't know. Something that kryptonite doesn't work. And then find other ways to beat him as opposed to just that. Writers need to dump relatability. Some of the best authors never bothered with relatable characters, just good stories. Well, that's the thing, but that's what I'm saying here. This whole all-girl Avengers, okay? The fact that they have to make this claim, we want an all-girl Avengers, is offensive. And I'm not one that's easily offended, and I'm just offended now because of everything that's gone on, and I'm just tired of it. I'm sick of this. Because to say I want an all-girl Avengers is saying I don't want any guys in my movie. That's what you're saying. You're saying you're treating a pro-feminine thing, but what you're really saying is I don't want guys. And there's no reason, because there was never been an Avengers movie where we decreed we only want men in this movie. Now, if they just so happen to write a couple of girls coming together in a movie and had a natural event that they just came together, I would be fine with that. But they did to make this into an obvious political statement saying an all-girl Avengers because we're women here, us roar. Hey, Rhodes Rant, how's it going, bud? And everything Star Wars, guys. Check out their channels. They're really awesome. And also SK Wells. Check out his channel, everybody. And subscribe and all that sort of stuff. Got to remember to do that. I always forget to tell everybody to subscribe to everybody. And everybody should listen, too. We this whole thing, it's like, oh, we want equal opportunity. Well, what's equal opportunity? If you're saying, remember the whole Bechdel test of, well, 50% and 50%, and we have to have this many. So how is an all-girl superhero movie passing any kind of Bechdel test as far as the opposite is concerned? It doesn't matter, right? Because it only matters is if it's an all-female movie, then it's okay to be over that 50-50 thing that these feminists cry about. But if it's now an all-female movie, now it's a sexist movie, is it not? Because now, by your own definition of sexism and what the isn't that sexist? Everything Star Wars, Spider Shaney, Yes, that's right. I'm Shaney by day, I'm Spidey by night. You know, it doesn't, for me, that is the definition of sexism. When you are outwardly saying, well, we don't want, and it's most of these movies, that's another thing I'm done with, because I really want to change the narrative of this, guys. I want us all, if you all have YouTube channels, I'm telling you guys, if we all, everything Star Wars, Rhodes Rants, I want us to start this thing going forward. No more SJW talk. No more. And what I mean by that is, let's not call these guys SJWs. Let's call them feminists. Let's call them sexist, because that's what they are. They're being sexist. And I think we need to shift and transform their narrative and use it against them, because they want to use movies like Captain Marvel and say it's a pro-feminist movie. Look, it's a pro-feminist movie, and women love it, and women are great. But yet you're attacking men every step of the way. Every time these movies are pro-feminine, they don't just leave it at being pro-feminine or pro-female. They always have to, you know, make guys bumbling fools, stupid, moronic, not worthy of respect, morons, or evil. And by doing that, it's basic, or shoot them in the face, shoot them in the balls, like in Ghostbusters, because that's hilarious, isn't it, guys? Huh? Isn't it? Because men are stupid and they're so toxic. Like, this is anti-masculine. This is not pro-feminine. It's anti-male. And as a male, I am offended by that, because you are being sexist. And I'm not going to give you any more credit. I'm tired of giving these people credit for saying that they are pro-feminine or pro-female and they want female empowerment. No, to be powerful as, I'm sorry, I'm getting mad. Can you tell I'm getting mad? I don't usually get mad, but here I am. I'm getting mad. You know, to call yourself a pro-female, pro women and pro-female power, I'm for that. I have nothing against you guys wanting to feel, you know, empowered, but you don't empower yourself by lowering the standard and lowering the bar. Okay? Did we ever say to ourselves, you know what we need? We need an all-female police force, because that's what we need. That's what we need, an all-female police force, because that'll get the job done. Just screw the fact that if there's an impending doom to the world, all the other Avengers are going to be like, guys, okay, we got this, okay? You just stay home, because us ladies are going to take care of this one, right? We don't. Do the cops say that? Do the girls say, boys, go sit down in Starbucks eating your donuts? Why do the girls sound like guys now in the police force? Maybe I don't know why. We just do. I'm going to get to some of these. Jane Eyre will be remade, but she'll have superpowers and shoot lasers out of her eyes and be able to punch the males and super carrier. Guy Harrison says, check out Overlord DVD's channel and his spoiler on the Rise of Skywalker. I think I have seen it. Shaney, the mad entertaining. I know. I'm mad, guys. I am. I'm really angry. She will leave Mr. Richester at the curb and be given his estate. Like, dude, I am so mad because this is impacting my life. And I'm not serious. I'm not actually being serious, because I'm seeing this narrative now being echoed by girls in my life. Like the women, like girls that I talk to, girls and like people that I know, people I work with, and the stuff that I'm hearing is so sexist now. And the rhetoric is, oh, I was going to go with this person, but then I didn't, because like I wanted to go with the girl because the girl power, yoo-hoo, girls. Like, I'm just sick of that. Now it's no longer just like, it's enough, because what you're doing is first of all, they care so much about what little girls are going through. Well, little girls need someone to look up to, but no one gives a crap about little boys. Nobody cares about little boys, right? Everything is attacking the patriarchy, because the patriarchy is all that matters. All that matters is a couple of grumpy white men who are running the world in the Freemasonry. That's the only reason that you hate, is the Freemason grumpy old men club. And yet your little boy, who doesn't know anything about this, who doesn't care, he just wants to live his life, wants to eat Cheetos, wants to watch his cartoons, wants to play with some toys and some video games and watch some movies. He doesn't want to be told he's a bad person for doing nothing wrong. He doesn't want to be told before he's out of his diapers, he's told he's already privileged and evil. SK Willie, I was at K Harrison. I was at red light and watched a fireman work while two women firemen stood and watched. They were checking out his butt. SK Wells, The coffee and the other Anglican churches are thinking of rewriting the the Celtics to make fewer male references of God or Jesus. Yeah, because now Jesus is apparently part of the patriarch. Well, he was always part of the patriarch, according to them, anyway. And yeah, no, I don't. I believe that. The point is like this is taking now these girls these feminist types or whatever you want to call them now, these sexists, because I'm calling them sexists right now. That's what I'm heading for, guys. Sexism. We need to call them out for sexism. That's because I'm tired of this. I'm tired of giving them credit for being enlightened, empowered, and woke. This woke narrative. How are you woke when you're half asleep? Because you can't be half asleep and be woke at the same time. And that's what I see these people are. They say, oh, I'm so woke, and this is a woke generation, and everyone's woke. When you're only seeing one side of the narrative that you're perpetuating, which is freedom and equality, and yet you're only seeing one side of it, means you are half awake. It means I can only see it from this angle. This angle needs to be fine, and everybody needs to have freedom on this side. But on this side, who cares? Who cares about boys? Who cares about men? You know, they're all evil and stupid and thing. Well, yeah, they're bigots, plain and simple. I agree with you, Brian Young, and they're damn bigots. And I'm tired of us giving them. Rose Rant says I'm an atheist, and even find that offensive. You find the fact that you're an atheist offensive? I don't understand. Everything Star Wars. Disney Channel had a mix of cartoons, but turned to all girl cartoons except for Mickey. Yeah. Oh, now, have you seen that Mickey cartoon? It's just it's horrible, dude. That Mickey cartoon is bad. He doesn't even sound like Mickey anymore. You know how I go, oh, hey, everybody, this is Mickey Mouse. I listen to him, and he just sounds like weird. He's this high-pitched, weird-ass Mickey that I don't even recognize. I feel like they couldn't even get a proper Mickey voice. Everything Star Wars. My daughter became disinterested. Disinterested in all the cartoons? But that's like, when we were in the 80s, I know you guys are 80s kids like me, probably, or 70s. If you were in the 80s, girls had a lot of cartoons. There was a lot of representation. It was girls and boys. Girls and boys had a lot of cartoons, and they had their own thing. Like Gem was for girls. Girls liked Gem because the music, because it was pop. It was about fashion and glitter and all the stuff that girls liked. That's apparently offensive now, because the things that girls were raised to like is apparently offensive because a couple of girls don't like it. And so everyone else has to hate it. Being a female is now offensive. Having boobs is offensive. So if you're a woman and you have boobs, unfortunately, you are offensive. Yeah, so you should have a breast reduction and become a man, because that's what we need. In this world, everybody is the same. We're going to look like a bunch of genderless people, because why not, right? Rose Rant's rewriting to a less male god. Even that's offensive to me. Oh, it's like, it's in the end, it doesn't even matter, right? What matters to me the most is how it's impacting our everyday life. And I'm the type of person that I'm like, let people live, let people be them, right? If you are who you are, you want to be what you want, you think what you think, let you think that. I don't tell people how to live their lives or how to think what they want to think, because in my life, I always feel like people are what they are based on their life experiences. And so what you believe tends to be, as long as you don't try to change me, as long as you don't try to impose your will upon me or on other people, then I'm okay with anything you want to be and what you want to think. It does as long as you don't want to change, as long as what you're doing doesn't try to change who I am or other people. That's how I am. And so if somebody wants to be angry at the world, that's their problem. Maybe your life is crap and men ruin your life. I was actually raised by feminists, by the way. Most of my family growing up were feminist types. Second wave feminists, but they were all the type that tried to make me that guy, that nice boy, the one that all the girls are supposed to like, that soy boy type. And when I was young, they actually succeeded, because I was that kind of guy. And then I started going to parties because when I was a kid, my parents, they didn't want to babysit, so my mom would take me to these all-girl affairs that they had all the time. These all women parties that no men were allowed to go to, and they so they so they would take me to these things, and I'm sitting there as the only guy in this all-girl, all-woman, and they're most of them feminists. My mom wasn't a feminist; she didn't think that way. My mom was, to me, still my hero. She was the coolest woman in the world. But the rest of these, they all dated these when they were young. They got married to the bad boy, the one they thought they could change, but then when he doesn't change and he cheats on them and treats them like crap, apparently all men are evil because of their one experience, and they didn't want to change and go to anybody else because they're too afraid to leave their little comfort zone. So they sit with their poor ass bad relationship that they actually trust me, everything Star Wars. This was not a party. You didn't want to see these women. These are feminists, not women. Man, take it easy. You know what I'm telling you? You need to listen to guy. You need to listen to the current Anglican debates at high up levels. Trust me, selfish is the new good, and I'm sure Epton educated bishops will argue why it's okay. Like here's the thing too. Like I don't know if you guys are, that's not relevant to what I'm saying, but now when I'm in that party with these girls, these women, not girls, women, and they're bitter, and all they ever do is bash men the whole time. My husband is just that's, and oh my god, my butt, and she's that's, and when they're not bashing women, they're talking about sex. By the way, and let me tell you, women talk about sex far more than guys do. It's always sex jokes and sexual innuendos left and right when they're alone. And that's why they think men do that, is because they do that. Anyway, so they're sitting there, and I remember being a kid listening to this, and men are this, and boys are this, and guys are just all stupid, and they don't even know. And they're just on and on. I remember at some point I snapped, and I yelled at every single one of them. I said, I swear to God this happened. I yelled, I'm so sick and tired of all you women in this room. I am tired. Do you understand that I am a man? All of you who have had a chance, and I am a man. I'm a man, and I'm the person you're talking about right to my face, and you're bashing me to my face as I'm sitting right here. You know what they told me? Oh, you're different. We raised you. We made sure you're not like them. I said, you're bull. I said, BS. I have a lot of friends that were just like me and that you didn't have any hand in raising. And they were just like, and they're not like the people that you chose. Just because, and I said this, just because you married an asshole and you can't leave him and you can't own up your own damn mistakes, you want to blame the entire gender for that. And that's not fair. And then you guys need to own your own damn mistakes. And they all sat quiet and poo face for that whole day. And I really don't care because they deserved every minute of that. And that's what I feel is going on here. See a bunch of bitter people who have had a couple of experiences with a couple of bad people and judge an entire gender over it. And there are some really bad guys. I know that for a fact. But but to consistently now call out a gender because of a few bad people and is sexist, because that's like what people are saying, all women are this, all black people are this, all white people are this, all Asian people are this. That's stereotyping. And we have to stop. Like, this is another thing too. Have you ever? Last summer, I used to go to a pool in the middle of the day, and as I was out kind of looking for a job at the time, and so I went to a pool, and there was always a gaggle of like housewives just in the water every single day. Just at the same time, and all they would do was bash their husbands. My husband, and oh my God, and my husband. And I just think to myself, so you're bashing your husband, the guy who's at work right now, putting food on your plate, affording you the lifestyle that you have while you sit in a damn pool in the middle of the day, and you have the right to complain about them. I'm pretty sure they're not great people. Or they're not everybody has their flaws, but God, I'm sorry, guys. I'm on a rant. I know this is something I've just been bottling up, and I feel like, hey, fanatics of film, how's it going, bud? Check out our live stream. Me and him, we had a really fun one yesterday. It was a lot more fun than this one. This was just all about rage. My gender is me. He says, "Yeah, we're all our gender, isn't that right? I'm only what's between my legs. I don't have any thoughts or feelings. I'm just governed by my pelvic bone." Today's feminism makes me want to make a film with Vin Diesel, The Rock, Jason Momoa, Sly Stallone, Jason Statham, and Fast and Furious franchise. You know what though? That movie would be sick ass, and it would make a ton of money, and most of the girls would actually go watch that. Because girls like to see hot guys, and they want to talk about, they don't, but they do. They all want to see hot guys, and they don't want to see girls. Here's another argument I have. You know, they talk about why is there a gender gap in the NBA? Why is it that the WNBA doesn't make as much money as the players from the NBA? And I'm like, well, not everybody in the NBA makes the same amount of money, do they? Right? You know why? Because no one's there to see Joe Schmo dribble a basketball. They want to see LeBron James dunk on your head, because that's what it's about. It's about, because first of all, and I hate this argument, I really do. Basketball players, hockey players, football players, they're not employees. They're not, okay? They are product. That's why you're charging. You're paying for the product, and they are the product. So it's a different mentality when we're talking about them. They're not actual employees. They are actually the product. Some are employees, but most, when you're talking about at that level, that's a product. And unfortunately, it sounds bad to say a person is a product, but when it comes to professional sports, you're there to see the elite players do elite things. Because if you didn't, why aren't they paying for amateurs? Nobody wants to see amateurs really play, because they're, I mean, you know, in school they do, but I mean, well, in Canada, they don't care about amateurs at all. But I know in the U.S., they actually do. But they're not getting paid definitely the same amount of money as they do. Well, NCAA isn't getting paid anything. But at the same, but you know what I mean? They're not paying. You want to pay for the professionals. Now, when you have the WNBA players going there and saying, well, we deserve. I'm sorry, but you're not elite in your sport. I don't care how good you are. You may be the elite in your gender in your sport. But until you can go toe-to-toe with an actual NBA franchise, and if you could go toe-to-toe with an NBA franchise, I guarantee you'd make a ton of money. And just look at tennis players. People love watching tennis players. They're elite. They're good. I mean, they're probably still not as good as the guys. Guys could still overpower them with the strength. And anyway, it's just this whole narrative is just it's just faulty, and they don't want to admit that, because they think everything has to be equal to them. Yet I don't see them crying about the reverse. Why aren't they crying about there's not equality in the construction field? Why is no one says, why is there not only a certain amount of female construction workers? No one cares about that, because that's not lucrative enough. It's not fancy. It's they only want the high fancy falutin jobs like actors and stuff like that. But when it comes to actually, you know, doing what's needed, like the foundation of building a country, which is actually the infrastructure and the roads. You know, you can't drive your car without the roads. You know, you need a garbage man, otherwise the whole city will stink. Sorry, guys. I think it just froze there for a bit. You know, I don't know. I'm just angry. I feel like I'm not usually an angry person, and I try not to be angry all the time. But I'm starting to lose it, because I'm seeing people in my life now that this is influencing them and how they're seeing other people. And I don't like that. I don't like how kids, they're forgetting that there is an actual cause and effect to this. And they think that it's okay to be female empowerment is fine. But when you have to put down men on a consistent basis to the point where you don't think this is going to impact boys growing up, you don't think that you're going to create a boy who hates himself. Why? Why would you want that for your son? Why would you want your boy to walk around saying, I hate me? Why? What have you done, son? I've done nothing, but I'm a man and I'm white. So I should hate myself based on things that I didn't do or I haven't yet to do. But apparently I'm white and I'm a boy. I deserve to be hated upon. I deserve to be shit on. I deserve to be shot in the face by Captain Marvel's blaster. I deserve to be kicked in the crotch. I deserve all this because what? You just said it. I think, was it Everything Star Wars? You said now almost. You're right. All the cartoons are for girls now. And back in the day, there was a good amount of fair girls and boys proportionate of cartoons. Now it's mostly girls. And I'm like, so the boys don't have nothing. So where are boys going to go? Video games, right? That's all the thing boys want is video games now. And now they want to change the video games narrative so that it's all girls. They're mostly girls in the video games. They just want, this is a wave that has to be stopped. I thought it was just something that would go away, but we have to put an end to this. And I'm not saying to prevent women from achieving levels of anything. I'm not saying we should do that. I'm not saying we should stop anybody from who's advocating pro or being pro someone. I'm not saying that, or help people who are actually in need of equality. Nancy Henrique says, I would never watch an all-female anything. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, as they call it. I love me some men. Well, that's what most women are like. Ask Jason Momoa who the heck his fans are. Mostly women. So, and it's another thing too. You know, I used to actually like watching girl sports a lot of times. I used to support the female soccer teams. I'd support because I just liked watching sports. So I would actually support them. You know, I used to actually ask other girls, did you watch the Canadian girls soccer team in the Olympics? No. Why? Why won't you support them? I don't know. I don't really care. I don't like sports. So these again, it's on the men to somehow support not just the men's sports, but we also have to support the female sports too. And we're assholes if we don't, right? So it's like, why don't you support your own damn sports? Why don't girls support? Why is the narrative always the guys have to come to watch the girls play soccer or the girls play this? Why? You don't go to watch. You don't watch. Men mostly watch sports. Now, I'm not saying girls don't watch sports. A lot of girls love sports, but it's definitely a higher proportion of men to women. No one would argue that. So then, obviously, who's supporting the event? It's mostly guys who are supporting male sports. So if you want female sports to do well and pay money and make the same as much as women, or men, then go and support them. But you don't, do you? So you just want us to do everything. Sorry, I'm ranting. Hate it. Getting it all off my chest. Everything Star Wars. I just think you need a mix of everything, and it works. It did back in the day, and it can now. Well, that's the thing. There is actually not really anything wrong. Okay, let's just take a deep breath of this, because in the end, right now in our society, despite the narrative, things have never been better for women. Things have never been better for LGBTQ. Things have never been better for Black people. And I'm talking about opportunity, racism, and anything. These Shaney rants, I know. These right now, this day and age is the best time in human history for immigrants. Despite Trump, despite all of this stuff that people are hating on, this is still the best time in history. Okay, in the Western world for minorities. Okay, so but the narrative would claim that everything is horrible. No, it's not horrible. You're picking on manspreading. If you're picking on manspreading, a guy who opens his damn legs on a bus is the biggest problem you have in this world, then you have a problem with yourself. You can't stop hating. And that's what it is. These people just can't stop hating. They hate themselves more than anybody else. And I think that's what it is. They hate themselves and they can't look internally. They can't look at themselves, look at their own decisions and what they make. So what they do is they have to find a villain. And the villain we're an easy target. And we have to stop this. We have to stop it. I'm calling it out for what it is. We keep saying SJWs, NPC in our taglines. SJWs do this. Feminists say this. We have to stop this, because in order to not to change this, probably won't change it, but we definitely need to maybe let them know what it feels like to be called a sexist. And I think that's what we should do. No more SJW tags. What we should say is sexist. If you want to say sexist SJWs, then fine. But always throw out the sexist in your titles, because we have to let them know that what they're doing is hypocrisy, and they are being just as sexist as the people that they say they hate, if not worse. SK Wills, today's SJWs are yesterday's militant atheists who pretend Christians wanted slavery and women to be property of men in 2006. SK Wills also says they won that because Christians apologized, and now they need new victims. was never about atheism, was always about ego boosting. Rouse Rant's employment is down for everyone out there right now, regardless of demographic. Well, there's more and more people, and that's the one thing no one wants to talk about. The ever-increasing amount of population is obviously going to create less and less jobs. And get used to it, because with the more automation there is going to be, the more online shopping, the more reliance on computers and computer software. And look, even just think about how vastly something like technology like what do you call it, the 3D printer will do for unemployment. I mean, if everyone had a 3D printer in their house at some point, we don't have to buy a fork because we can make one. All this does affect unemployment, and we're just going to have to, at some point, readjust and refix this situation accordingly, because technology and overpopulation is happening, and that's part of the huge part of the problem for all of this. Space is the place. Yeah, let's fly to space so we can overpopulate the sun. No, there's a complicated issue, and it's like, and it's multifaceted, and I think right now humans are we're in an evolutionary phase in our society. We're in the middle of an evolution societally. Like, our society is in the middle of a change, and we have to sort of adjust. Our technology is growing faster than we can adjust. And we're also procreating far faster than we should, in order to have a viable system that we are creating. Canada, we don't really have that overpopulation issue, because if it wasn't for immigration, Canadian population would actually decrease every year. But it doesn't. And if it wasn't for like immigration laws or immigration, Canada just wouldn't sustain its population. So come to Canada, guys. It's better than the moon. I promise you that. There's a lot of space up here, not in Toronto, but there's a lot of space in the Baffin Islands. There's a lot of good real estate in Saskatchewan. You want to freeze your butt there? Go ahead. You have one season to cultivate things. Come to Canada. That's my thing, because it's the least populated place on earth. Plenty of water, a lot of fresh air. I'm going to speak for the Canadian Board of thing. To come to Canada. Canada at least spells words better than the Yanks. Oh, snap. You're going there on the spelling. The English spelling. Yes, we speak the Queen's English here in Canada. My wife and I did a ton of research on Canada a couple of years ago. And what did you come up with, Rhodes? Because I would like to be enlightened, because I don't know nothing about my country. Well, listen, Canada is a good place to live for a lot of reasons, and I shit on my country a lot because of the SGW type stuff going on right now. But there's a lot of and it's cold as ass, and there's just a lot of stuff here. But I mean, Toronto, if you stay in southern Ontario, you're actually okay, because it's like average, weather. We're actually more south than even American cities, we're actually okay if you go to southern Ontario. If you go to Quebec, there's some really beautiful places. The only problem is you have to deal with the French Canadians, and even I can't stand them. Will Trudeau demonize me because I'm a white male? Yeah, probably will. I'm sorry to say, but don't worry, because I don't think he's gonna last, guys. He's not loved here. He is actually despised. So he was a big mistake. He lived off of his father's name. That's why he was Pierre Elliott Trudeau is like our version of John F. Kennedy, and he won because of his father's name. When he got here, I knew right off the bat, because he was double talking, that he wasn't who he said he was. And so I just sort of I knew right away he was not who he claimed to be. But I think his charm and his looks and all that stuff sort of razzle-dazzled people too much. But he is not. His father was a horrible traitor too. Yeah, there's a lot of haters on him as well. I don't know. It was before my time. Me, as far as my favorite prime minister was still and always will be Jean Chrétien. And that's the one thing I like about our system is that we can, if we like a prime minister, he'll stay for as long as we want him to be there. We can vote him in forever until he wants to retire. And we loved Chrétien. And I think if Chrétien was to actually run this year, he would win again just because we loved him and he's my beloved. Anybody who actually chokes out somebody himself, because I remember that's one of the reasons I respected him is somebody crashed the gate into the into the parliament to go after him. And Jean Chrétien, you know, the guy who used to talk like this, hello, I am Jean Chrétien, because he had a stroke and his mouth was very much like this. He was French Canadian, and he grabbed, instead of like all the all the Secret Service guys jumping him, the guy ran right up to Chrétien. Chrétien grabbed him by the throat and just shook him like this. Get the hell off of me! I was just like, this guy's got my vote. Anybody who can grab, he just didn't care, and he just kept going. He was strong. I guess his will was strong. He was just, I just liked him. Damn Republican, give me the crown. The remote areas are pretty appealing. I've run a course with people. Red ensign needs to return. Canada, like I said, the biggest problem with Canada is the weather. If you can handle the weather, you're fine. It takes a couple of years to get used to it. I still have people from Cuba who I work with who are like, they're like, when is this? I heard we were supposed to be adjusted to this yet. I'm like, take some years, man. Take some years to get used to the weather. But you eventually do get used to it. And that's the thing. People don't think you will, but you do get used to anything. But then you get healthcare, and that's one of the great things about ours. And don't let anyone tell you guys that we hate our healthcare. That's BS. Every Canadian praises Almighty for our healthcare every day. You know, it's just that's if you hear some other Canadian complaining about our healthcare, that's a very minority, a huge minority. Anyway, aside from that, I'm going to go back to what I was saying because I want us to change this narrative because we have to make a stand for this because right now we are actually creating a problem for our kids and for us. We can't enjoy movies anymore. And that's not like that's an annoyance, but it's not. But I'm seeing a future bigger issue with this because of what our kids are going to be raised to become, and the boys are going to be raised to hate themselves. And I'm already seeing it happen where boys are starting to hate themselves and for not doing anything. And it's just, and it's one thing to add sympathy because you feel like you have to be empowered by something, but it's another thing to attack, to be a hypocrite. And to attack guys or to like, you know what I mean? And if they're doing that, it's now considered sexism and we have to, I'm telling you, can we all agree this, guys, Rhodes Rants, can we all agree on this? When we do SJW says this in our video, can we at least put sexist XJW now so that we can actually kind of let them see how it feels to be called sexist, you know, or racist? I mean, a lot of these feminists are anti-Jews too, and they even talk about they're anti-Semitic, but they don't care. No one talks about that because they'll throw and I've even was reading some Tumblr stuff or Tinder stuff, and they were talking about how they were feminists, and then they don't like Jews, yet they hate the Nazis. I'm like, all right, so it's okay for you to say racist remarks like that. So how do you get away with it? How do you get away with doing both things? How do we get away with on one hand talking about I hate bullying, but you're a bully. I hate sexism, but you're being sexist. I hate racism, but you're being racist. How is it you can get away with that just because you say you're an SJW? So it's okay. I'm a feminist and an SJW, so it's okay for me to be racist. It's okay for me to be sexist. It's okay for me to be hateful and spiteful and attack any way I can. It's okay. It's not okay, and we got to make sure that it isn't okay. SK Will says, thank you, Rhodes, by the way. I can do that. Awesome. That's what I think we all should start. We should start promoting as well. I lived in Canada instead of Tennessee. The surgery I waited for 5 years would be done now. If I lived in Canada. The thing, like my mom, she had an aneurysm years ago. She's passed on now, not because of the aneurysm, but something else. She had an aneurysm. She actually had 2 aneurysms in her head. And she went in for emergency surgery. they held her for a night because they wanted to fly the tops, because what she had was really complicated. So they flew in the top Canadian surgeon. I think he was from Vancouver, and they flew him into Canada, specifically into Toronto, sorry, to specifically do her surgery. He was the top surgeon in his field in all of Canada, and they flew him in. They told me my mom may not survive that night because it was, if one of them burst, because she had she had 3 aneurysms, 2 had already burst, which is impending doom. Like, for people who know aneurysms, the minute your aneurysm bursts, you're dead. She had 2 burst, and she's a strong lady. She survived that. They said it's a friggin' miracle she even survived. So they said, but if the 3rd one goes in this time, she's a goner. It was a 10-hour surgery, and it was a success. She ended up with a mild stroke during the surgery because it was just so long. And she had to go to rehabilitation for years. She didn't even remember anybody when she first came out of it. She didn't know who I was. It was scary. She started remembering, and I remember the surgeon afterwards talking to me said, "Be thankful you live here, because this surgery would have cost you $300,000. And I'm like, that's just for the surgery. That doesn't account for the hospital stay that she spent months in. That doesn't account for the food. It doesn't account for the what do you call it? She had to go for therapy for months. All that stuff would have cost a ton of money, and we didn't pay a dime. That's one of the reasons I actually do love my country. So when I always think about that, I just think, even if we did have insurance, $300,000 you have to pay a deductible. What is the deductible on $300,000? I don't know, but it would be crazy. So anyway, deductible is deductible, right? There's always a fixed amount, but it's still high. I'm just saying that I know that everybody complains about our taxes, which are ridiculous. I won't deny our taxes being ridiculous, but that's the one thing I will say, and are cold. But trade-offs, right? Anyway, everything Star Wars says, Shaney, the ranting entertaining. Yeah, I know, guys. I'm gonna go back to being more normal next time. I know this one is something I think I've had on my chest for the longest time. I'm glad you guys were all part of it. Get to let me unleash and unload some of this stuff. I worked part-time for Uncle Sam, and guess what? No fees for me, but a 5 bloody year wait. For a 5-year wait, that's a long time. That really is a long time. I mean, I will be honest. Sometimes the waiting here in Canada is really long as well, because a lot of people exploit the system too, because you have a lot of people who just will go for a boo-boo. I've got a boo-boo, and they go to the emergency room, and then they sit there in their boo-boo. But the way it works here is it's not first come, first serve. They go by the actual if it's what needs attention, immediate attention, right? So if you go there with an aneurysm, you're going to be first on the list. But if you go there with a scraped boo-boo, you're going to be waiting. And I'm not talking about the bear. Reattach the muscle, left arm, previous surgery. They made me do a lot of drigs before I was cleared for surgery. Rose Rant said, you're better at the political stuff than me. I'm terrible at talking on this stuff. No, I'm not really good at political stuff, to be honest. I should be more political than I am. I have a lot of views and a lot of opinions on it. And I really think that, and that's another thing too, by the way, you said drugs, but we also have more affordable drugs here. That's, like I said, there's a lot of things about Canada that are great, and there's a lot of things that are Canada that are not so great. Just like any country, it's like there's good and bad in everywhere. So that's all I'm going to say. We're not better or worse than anybody else. We're just us. That's all there is to it. I'm not one to say I brag to anybody, because in the end we have ridiculous taxes that just, especially income tax, that just kill us, and the gas taxes and insurances are ridiculous here. When I start my channel back up, I'll have you on for politics. Cool, man. I try to be comical. And here's the thing. I don't like mixing comedy and politics. And the reason I don't like mixing comedy and politics is because I think politics is a serious matter. And when you have a Stephen Colbert or even a Jon Stewart who talks comedically about a subject, what you're doing, from my opinion alone, people could differ on me on it for me, but this is how I've always felt. If you are talking about a serious matter, you diffuse it by making it into a joke. Sometimes it's funny for laughs, and that's what you're doing. But if you're actually trying to make a point to make it funny or comical, I don't think is the best way to do it. So I don't like to mix the two a lot of times, because I don't like dealing with things with snark. I hate snark because, I mean, sometimes I'll do it if I don't care, if I'm just trying to be funny, but when you actually are trying to make change, or you actually are trying to have some, a valid thing to say, or of some, and say it with impact, make it impactful, you definitely should reduce the snark in your tone, make it very, heartfelt. Everything Star Wars says, sorry to hear about your mom. Yeah, I know, and it's going to be Mother's Day next week. It's always harder these days. Unfortunately, Fanatics of Film, I missed what you said. You said, unfortunately, we have injected into everything, and that's politics. But it's always been there. It's always been there, and I want us to understand this. Politics has always been part of our movies. It's always been there. The problem is that there used to be a movie around it. There used to be an actual script, writing, and things were always written properly. Now we just have politics, and it's ruining the story. It's ruining the narrative. It's not flowing with the narrative. It's not making sense. It's just because most of it doesn't make sense, and so they can't make it make sense. And so what they're doing is they're shoving it into things that don't really fit. And so when they do that, the whole narrative falls apart, and you're not getting a good story. You're just getting the shit politics, as opposed to a proper narrative, which is trying to at least. It's like if you're at least going to show what your point is valid through the narrative and in a proper way, then maybe we could all learn something. Because I'm okay to learn something. I'm not a person. I don't think we should all be a person where we're just stuck to our ways and say, men have done no wrong in history. We've always been great. And then if they can show us a certain side to an argument that I haven't seen before through a proper narrative, I'll be open to it. But that's not what they're doing. That's not what they're doing. They're just shoving their bigoted view, because that's what I'm calling it. It's a bigoted, sexist view without any explanation to go along with it into this movie, and it doesn't make sense with what they're even talking about. Star Wars: The Last Jedi is a prime example of this. Poe Dameron does what he has to do in a war scenario to defeat the enemy, and there were casualties, which happens in a war. It happens in war. You don't have ships flying with bombs if you don't think someone's going to die. So to have this narrative of him risking his life, defeating one of the major weapons of your enemy, and then he gets a slap, it doesn't make sense. And don't try to make it make sense, because the only way it makes sense is in your head with the narrative, with the sexist view that you're putting forth. Because you're a man and because you make male, it's not even because you're a man. They're trying to make it like into a gender thing. It's not. He's a heroic. He took it upon himself to do a movie, and he was successful, and he got a slap for it. That doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't fit narratively, and it's definitely not. It's politically inaccurate. Sorry, I'm a little behind at work. We should smart for afterwards and accomplish nothing through the Americans, then bomb somewhere, and we go along. And snark is British target. Yeah, I know. A lot of British people, I noticed, even like Mahler, everything is snark and the way they talk. And it's funny. It's funny. And I will give it that to an extent. But if you're trying to be serious and if you want other people to listen to you, you don't take that tone if you're actually trying to be listened to for real. If you don't care about people listening to you and you're just out to make jokes and be funny, that's fine. But if you really want to be listened to, you got to take yourself and the tone seriously. In order to be actually paid, listened to, because nobody, even in an argument or debate with your friend or your family member, you're not, once you get to that state where you're like, you become snarky with your tone, and that's it becomes very the argument always bogs down into just name calling, and it never actually goes anywhere. So that's why I always say I like to separate comedy from serious Shaney. I should open up another channel, Shaney, I don't know, the Brainy, I don't know. Shaney's gone insane. Just go off kilter and just rant and rave for an hour about the world. But it's just like I'm just tired of being called a sexist when you're being a sexist. I'm tired of being called a racist when you're being racist. I'm tired of it because I've done nothing that I can say that I'm ashamed of in my life personally. I've treated girls and women in my life with respect, always have. I've always treated every person of color. I've had friends, best friends of all races, creeds, and color. I've never been racist or thing in my life. I don't have. I was raised with even like LGBTQ community in my family, and I've actually been a victim of gay bashing, even though I'm not gay, just because I was walking with my uncle who was gay, and so I understand how they feel. So I understand that narrative. I have never been that way. And now just because I don't like a movie, I'll have comments and people call me a racist, bigoted, or I'm unwoke and crap like that. Because of what? A superficial thing that you arbitrarily created to determine whether someone is sexist because you're angry? And I'm talking to them now. I'm talking to the woke people, the people who claim to be woke, but they got one eye open. How are you woke with your one eye open when you're half asleep? You can't be. If you only seeing half the picture because you're only seeing the anger and the rage on your side and then what you've gone through in your life, you're not a woke person. You're not. There's two sides. There's more than two sides. We got 7 billion people on this planet. There's a lot of sides. So we cannot sit here and like say, well, we're the only ones who have problems. Men don't have problems, even though the men have suffered from violence more than women do. Men suffer from as much physical abuse, spousal abuse. I think it's 40% to women. Men have a lot of issues that we go through, but when we have issues, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and we're not taken seriously because we're men. We don't even take our own issues seriously half the time. Brian Young says it's the collectivist blame, the assign the hold on, sorry, it's cut off. Infuriating. I think their intersectional feminism is to blame. I mean, there's so much stuff that, I mean, if you listen to Jordan Peterson, he talks a lot about Marxism. He talks a lot about that as well. He talks a lot about institutional feminism or institutional even in our schools. I think it's the biggest problem we have is right now is their schools and what they're teaching our kids, and they don't even care about how sexist schools are, because I'm using that word a lot, guys. I hope you understand I'm doing it purposefully. When you have these same sexists talk about they want 50% of the population in the areas that they value, and then when they don't realize that they have a majority in stuff like education, not just the students, but you have a majority in the faculty, and then yet they claim, that they're woke when you're not even fighting for equality in your own profession, because that doesn't matter because you guys dominate that, so it's fine. But in the stuff where you dominate, I'm not seeing a push for going to schools where they say to men to become teachers. I don't see that. There is no push, but they try to convince that we need more female scientists. So women are apparently not smart enough to make their own choices when it comes to their own careers. There's no push to saying, why aren't there more women in, why aren't there more male in fashion or men in fashion? Why aren't there more men in, they don't care because that doesn't matter. It doesn't suit their narrative. They like the control that they have in their areas, and they're not going to give it up. But how could you sit there with a really lopsided faculty when it comes to teachers. When you have like probably in most schools around 80% teachers that are female, how are you there saying that you know and still say that you're not you know what I mean, that there's inequality? How can you towards men? How can you say that there's it's not even an argument at this point, because you're like you're bloody hypocrite. Why aren't there more? And I'm not saying, listen, if women have proven themselves to be better teachers than men, or in this gender, like that's just how it naturally happened, which probably is the truth. I don't even know if it is or not, or maybe it is just and that's what I'm seeing a lot now, though, is that whole curves mentality, because girls don't like, they're afraid of men, and so men are going to come in here and ruin our little girl moment, or so they're very intimidated by guys, so they like to keep the guys out. I'm seeing a lot of that, by the way. Go to malls, try and buy a pair of pants if you're a guy. You got 2 or 3 stores, but and even if there are stores that have two, a guy section and a girl section, the guy section is this tiny little section in the back, but no one cares because it's irrelevant. No one cares about those little things. The men, the inequality, only care about what they want. Now we have these female teachers who are now teaching, and a lot of them are feminists. I don't know what the percentage is on that, but there's a good amount. And they'll talk about, and they'll teach and they'll preach their little thing to their philosophy to their kids, and make boys feel like crap. Girls need empowerment, but boys don't. Because boys by nature, you got a penis, you got testicles, you automatically are already self-confident. You know exactly what you want to be when you grow up. You know exactly who you are. There's no hey, puberty is a breeze for you because you're a male. You got all this privilege, so you can be anything you want to be. That's why male suicides are through the roof. Anyway, here I go ranting again. I'm sorry, guys. I promise this is my last one. I probably won't do this crazy thing again. Guy Harrison, when they realize they are penis envying and holding men up to a higher standard, then they will stop. Well, yeah. The thing is, from what I gather from my own observation, I got no statistics to back myself up on this, but I will say from my own observation of this whole situation, everything in our society and the way we feel comes down to how we feel about ourselves, our own perception of ourselves, insecurity. And when we feel insecure, most of the time, the person who is usually, like, let's just say, the person who is the most insecure about a specific thing. Like I've seen this happen. You've ever seen a guy who comes to school and he's got like pimples all over his face? What he'll do is, or she'll do is, she'll start picking on someone else's face and look how ugly she is, because it's a deflection. I don't want you to see how ugly I think I am. I'm going to call someone else ugly. And that's human nature. And we're seeing this here where a lot of self-loathing women, and maybe this is our fault. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that we're innocent in everything. I'm not saying that men have nothing to do with anything. We're all created each other. We're all take a hand in creating each other throughout history, right? And yeah, I will take not me personally, because I've never done anything wrong on a personal level as far as treating women in that way. But have men historically done things that have created this sort of insecurity in women? Possibly. I'm open to that possibility. I am open to that. But is that relevant to this moment right now? Is that relevant to how our kids are being treated? Is that relevant to how our kids are being taught? Is that relevant to this, to me? I mean, I could sit there and say, well, I feel bad for stuff that happened in the past, but it's not going to change the past. No matter how much I hate what happened in slavery, doesn't mean it's not going to reverse time. It's not going to happen. We can't change the past. All we could do is look for a better future. But it's like they want penance from people who weren't, but they'll say we're benefiting from that. And that's their argument, that we're benefiting from the things of the past. That's their argument. I'm not saying that. That's not mine. But they're saying we're benefiting. That's why we have the privilege we do, because we're benefiting from the mistakes of the past. Yes, I'm extremely hot, by the way. Yeah, my face is beaming red. I know. And I have nothing to drink except for coffee, and it was purposefully left in my shot, unlike the Game of Thrones Starbucks seat. I just think that an open dialogue is fine. We can have an open dialogue with people, and I always think to myself, if I just sat down with a feminist and we sat down and we can hash things out, but I know that's not going to happen because they're too angry, and from everything I read when they talk, they're not interested in hashing anything out. No matter how much they talk about wanting to be warrior, they're just interested in being angry. They're just interested in being hateful. They're just interested in what their narrative. And I understand this well because I went through a phase of being angry as well. Not at a particular sex or anything like that, but I had an angry phase. Shaney was always entertaining. I had an angry phase in my life, and then I realized there's no point. It's just anger begets anger, and it just leads to you losing yourself. And when you lose yourself in anger and rage, rage leads to suffering. You'll never, what you're going to do is isolate yourself, push and become a person nobody wants to hang out with. And in the end, you're not going to really, no one wants to be around Debbie Downer. So when you're acting in that angry way, and the system sucks and the crap, you go through life and you deal with that when you're young, and then you say you overcome it and you say, well, I'd much rather be a happier person, because a happier person, you get more out of life than being a miserable person. And when you are a miserable person, like I think a lot of these people have chosen to become, they've chosen to be miserable. They feed off of the misery that they created, and they don't know how to escape it. They're probably on Twitter looking for reasons to hate things, looking for reasons to be angry because it's an emotional response that they can relate to. And they don't know how to be happy anymore. And I know that feeling. I was there. I was in that feeling one part in my life where I was just, people would not want to hang out with me. And I understood that. I was, I understood that it's not a way you want to be, because you can't always live your life angry at everything. Even if things that you feel are unjust, all you can control is yourself. And as long as you purposely can do the right things that you need to do in this world, it sounds cliched, but you got to be. Well, yeah, you say they find power in victimization. Yeah, that's true. They find this power in victimization, but they also find power in numbers too, because they become like a gang. Okay, this is a gang mentality here. They're self-loathing. They don't know anything about themselves, or they hate themselves, and so what they do is they grab a hold of a whole bunch of people that have similar views to them, so they could validate each other. And then when they go on the attack and act like they're actually trying to change the world, but what they're doing is they're actually being a gang, like no better than other gangs out there. They're doing gang warfare, and they're ganging up on people, and they're attacking things, not because they really are doing any good, but they're attacking things that are just inane and stupid. Like I said, people out there attacking guys because their legs are spread open, and they say, oh, it's a power trip because guys, it's a power. No, it's not guys being on a power trip with their legs spread open. And I don't even buy the whole testicle reason, because there's a lot of guys who can have their testicles in slow. I think some guys have longer knees than others, and they just have a harder time closing the gap a bit. I think most of it is just guys just tired. They don't even realize it. They're sitting down and they're relaxed and their legs spread open a little bit too much. It's a little bit insecure. To me, it just seems like. But no one talks about the girls who put their damn purses on the damn subway, and that is an actual power trip where they actually lay their bags, their purses, because I just don't want to even sit next to myself. I'm going to challenge you to tell me to remove my bag, and I see that all the time. Where I see girls, no one talks about that side. Just people just laying their bag on the seat next to you, and I walk in and I'm like, "There's a free seat," and you just put your purse there. Now I have to be a dick and say, "Hi, ma'am, can you please remove your seat so I can sit in that." But most people are non-confrontational, and a lot of people get away with that. Brian Young says, sounds a bit like me since I watched The Last Jedi. Then they're all dye their hair purple. Well, The Last Jedi, and this is the thing that also gets me. It wasn't just because it was a bad movie, and I think if it was just a bad movie, we would have forgotten it by now. It was a bad movie, but it was a movie that did multiple things. It was a bad movie, badly written, in the same way the Game of Thrones is a bad movie and badly written. But what it actually did was it actually told me as a human being, as a person who watches Star Wars, it was a sexist movie, and I will put it that way, in the fact that it told me that I'm a bad person. Not just because I'm older and I'm an older generation viewer of Star Wars. It told me that because I'm a man, I'm not good. It told me that I'm not worthy of even knowing. If I side with Poe, I'm somehow not worthy of knowing the plan, because we're only going to screw it up because we're stupid men who are impulsive and don't know how to hold ourselves. It took our hero and it relegated him to a Schmiegel-esque living.
We just don't like his forces. Means there's no trainees because forces and Jedis are badses.
Yes, my face almost exploded on that. And it affected us emotionally, because when we're talking about us actually, relating to a character, and if that's how their mentality is, and say, well, you guys related to Luke Skywalker, so here they are now saying this is their mentality. Kathleen Kennedy has even said this: there was nobody for women to relate to, no characters, it was all for men. Okay, so by that definition and by their thing, if Luke Skywalker was a character for us to relate to, that we looked up to, you doing that to him was a definite FU to guys, and it was a definite basically telling guys to go screw yourselves. And I'm paying money for this, and you're taking my money, and you're trying to. And then after I don't like being called names in a movie that I'm trying to watch, I'm now a sexist. I'm now a racist, or whatever ist you want to call, because I don't like being called. I don't like being called names, or being made fun of, or being put down in a movie. That's what I'm talking about. That's where I'm saying we got to reverse this narrative. No, you're sexist. No, you're racist. No, you guys are the ones that are doing it, because that's how you think, not us. I'm just here to watch a damn movie and enjoy myself. You made it personal. I didn't make it personal. So now when we sit there and we tweet, and guys get angry, and we make Ryan Johnson videos, and we make videos about this, and we're the ones who are man babies living in our house. So basically you're saying it's okay to slap people in the face, run away like a big turtle, hide under the bed, and then when we get angry and look for some form of, a way of venting, we're man babies? No. That's not the way the world works. You don't take your little pot shots and then run and hide like bitches. I'm sorry. And I know that sounds sexist, but I don't care. It is sexist. They're being sexist, and they don't care about their bigoted ways. And we sit there and listen to them, and it's fine. Wookiee Lives Matter says, hey, Sheeny, I can't stay, but I saw you were live. And I'd say, hi, thanks, man. Thanks for dropping by. I appreciate it. It's too massive, dumb on the canon too. Like, there's so much stuff wrong with The Last Jedi. It's like you can make video, and that's why it hasn't died yet. Because what they did is they took a very popular, very profound and important film, historically for people, emotionally for people. They didn't understand the implications of it. They leave it in the hands of people who wanted to use it for their personal agenda. They used it for their personal agenda. They legitimately called out the people who loved that franchise, made fun of them, belittled them, and then once they felt hurt by it and voiced their displeasure with how they felt, it's not okay, and we're sexist because, or we're just man baby haters. No, it's not that, because there was a lot of stuff wrong with The Force Awakens, but most people forgave it. Most people forgave it for all its flaws. And now going back, we hate it even more because of what happened here. But I remember the narrative of The Force Awakens, and most people were okay with it. There were some people who were calling out Rey. There were people who were calling out that it was too similar and all that stuff. There was always that stuff. Narratively, it wasn't a lazy kind of movie. But we mostly, it felt like Star Wars. We forgave it. it didn't do too much. Yeah, there was a couple of cringy moments where Ray was like, "I don't need your hand," but for the most part, people were okay with it. This took a different level. This took it to a new level. And that's the thing. And we can't allow them to keep doing this to us. We have to take a stand. And when we see people being sexist against us or against anybody at this point, we have to take a stand, because now I'm no longer calling people SJWs. That's giving them credit. I'm no longer calling people NPCs. That's just, it doesn't even mean anything. I'm no longer calling anybody feminists. Just because you say you're a feminist and you say you're for equality, your actions should be the dictator of this. Just because Captain Marvel says she supports women, you're not supporting women. You want to have an all-girl Avengers team? Why? Is there an all-female police force out there? No. You're telling me the male Avengers are just gonna sit by and watch the world crumble because women want to do this? No. We all have a hand. It's a teamwork, team effort, and there's no need for all girls. And that's a sexist mentality. And if what's her face, Brie Larson, if she starts saying, "Oh, I want to direct this because I think we need more female representation in our directing," well, how about this, Miss Brie Larson? If you really care about opportunity for female directors, why don't you get a female director that's actually good, that needs an actual chance and hasn't gotten their chance at directing a decent movie? And why don't you give them that opportunity and use your clout and your privilege to give them the opportunity, not you. You don't deserve shit. Your one movie you directed is garbage, and you haven't deserved nothing. So why should you get to direct this movie just because you want to? No, you're using this to propel her own career. And so we think that she's some SJW. No, she isn't. She's self-interesting. She's all about Brie. It's all she cares about. She's I Me Mine, like that song by Paul McCartney. She does not deserve her own to direct that movie. And if she really cares about her agenda, people should be pushing her to allow someone else with more. Even if she wants to give it to a girl, you should always give it to the best person. But if you want to give it to a girl that needs a direct, or a woman who needs a chance, then give it to somebody who actually has earned it and hasn't gotten their chance yet. And I'm pretty sure there's a ton of women out there that are chomping at the bit who've put in their dues and need a chance. Give it to her, but don't take it yourself. And because we know who she's all about anyway. I wonder if Brie Larson can smile. No, she can't. When she smiles, you can actually hear the creases in her lips going. She doesn't smile. It's a smirk. If you notice, it's actually a smirk. It's like, it's not a real smile. She reminds me of I don't know if you know Lieutenant Commander Data when he used to smile. That's what she reminds me of when she smiles. She's a sociopath of the highest order. I'm just going around in circles now, guys. I'm repeating myself a bit too much. I hope you guys. I'm sorry for this rant. I just wanted to say my little piece, and it turned out into something I really didn't mean it to turn out into. But it's okay. We all need a chance to vent every once in a while and get things off our chest. But I really had to say this, and because I'm tired of the narrative of us being always on the defensive. And I'm legitimately trying to make it so that we are no longer on the defensive, because we have nothing to defend. We haven't done anything wrong. If they have a problem with some patriarchy that they hate, then go attack the Freemasons or whatever they believe are actually leading the world. Leave the minor people alone who have really no power, because if you want to get the powerful men, then attack the people with power. Don't attack the people with no power. That's not going to get you anything. Have some balls. I mean, women, have some balls. Just attack the people with power. Don't go after the minors, the minor people who really don't have an effect on anything. Janeway can blow Michael Burnham out of the stars. Janeway was fantastic. She's one of my favorite captains. And that's another thing that doesn't get seen in that Star Trek universe. Voyager had a lot of female characters. It had 7 of 9, which mind-blowing character for me. Yes, she had a really tight outfit, but whatever. Jason Momoa can go shirtless, so she can have a skin-tight outfit. You have what do you call it? Torres. engineer for head of engineering, Torres. You had what do you call it? Janeway, obviously. There was a lot of girl. What's her name? The one that was married to Neelix or dating Neelix. She was before. Anyway, there was a whole bunch of female characters that were really strong in that show. But now they make it as though this show is breaking boundaries for Star Trek because one character. There was already a black captain in Cisco, but that doesn't matter. Doesn't make a difference because they don't care about what the reality is. They just care about their narrative, what they want to say. Anyway, Kes. I thought Kes was sexy, by the way. Have you seen her now? Oh my God, what happened to Kes? she was so good looking, and now I don't know what happened to her. Anyway, guys, life happened to her, I guess. So, guys, I'm just gonna go now because I need to cool off. My face is about to look. My face when I started was not this color of my shirt. My shirt is now redder than. I mean, my face is now redder than my shirt. Yeah, well, yeah, he was. Yes, exactly. He was the captain who happened to be black. And so I gotta cool off. I gotta take a nice cold shower, and so you see the steam just emanating out of my ears and my face, and just I'm going to just meditate and just become one with the earth. Fanatics of Film explode splaining. Yeah, I know. I just gone crazy. It's just I can't. I know we all feel this, right? We're all feeling this. I'm not the only one, obviously, right? We're all feeling this, and I just want us to be on the defensive. I mean, stop being on the defensive and call out sexism, because that's the language they speak. You get what I mean? They speak that language. They speak the language of sexism and racism, and if we can call them and use their own weapon against them, because that's their weapon. Their weapon is to belittle us and call us sexist whenever it matters and whenever it feels, they don't know my life. They don't know what I've been through. They don't know who we are or who our friends are. They don't care. They nitpick specific arguments and things, and they manipulate it and they mold it into whatever narrative they want, and then they spit it back at us and call us sexist, and then that's supposed to be okay. But I think they're the sexists. They're the true sexists, and they're the true bigoted people, and they're the ones who need to be called out on it for their hateful, spiteful, bigoted ways. All right, guys, I'm leaving. Thanks. I know I'm talking too much. Got the bionic boosh going. Bill Nye, the promiscuity guy. All right, guys, I'm gonna say goodbye. Say before I leave, guys. Special thanks to all the people who came to see me. SK Wills, thank you. We always, we should do one together. Fanatics of Film, great guy. Please subscribe to his channel. He and I did a great review of Game of Thrones yesterday. It was hilarious. A lot more lighthearted than this. Check out SK Wills when his channel is back up and running. Check out everything Star Wars. Rhodes Rants. Subscribe to all these channels. They're wonderful people, and we should band together as a community, just as they have. And we're not taking that crap anymore. All right. Till next time, guys. See you later. I'll cool off, I promise, for the next one. Poo, poo, poo.